reminder for the audience that if you have cell phones, please turn them off. And at the end of the council meeting, we will be open to questions. So just a reminder. Before I start, we'll do the land acknowledgement. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, we acknowledge the town of Edson is located on Treaty 6 land, the traditional ancestor of the Nikawa, Sotu, Seskowich, oh God, these are hard names to do. Penagan, Quinta, Dene, Dakota Sioux, and the Métis Nations. We honor, acknowledge the land, the elders, youth which gather, and our ancestors who have gathered here for centuries. Okay, with that said, I will call for an adoption of the agenda. Okay. Councillor Moore.
I so move.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Moore. All those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Okay, adoption of the previous minutes of November 21st regular council meeting. And Councillor Persichny.
Yeah, I'll move the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Persichny. All those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Okay, D, no public hearing delegations. G, 1, property tax exemption brought to you by Tricia, account supervisor.
Sir, if I may, Paul Hanlon, General Manager of Corporate Services. Tricia is not with us this evening, and the motion.
Oh, sorry, hang on. I have to make the motion first. So I call for a motion, and Councillor Bevins. Thank you, guys.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bevins. Now, Paul, you can carry on. Oh, we vote? No, we vote after. Okay, carry on.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Through you to all of council. The subject of this item is 2 property tax exemptions being brought before council for consideration for the municipal tax year 2024. One is a renewal, the renewal being the Edson Golf Club. One is a partial exemption for the Edson Friendship Center. To explain the partial exemption, that is the portion of the leased building which is utilized for the tax-exempt appropriate uses. The requests, both of them, have been considered both through administration and through the Town of Edson assessor. And the motion, just to read that in, is that in accordance with Alberta registration number 281, council grant the applicants listed in attachments 1 and 2 property tax exemption status effective in the 2024 taxation year and for a maximum total of 3 consecutive taxation years, those being 2024 to 2026 inclusive. Sir, administration is available to answer any questions.
Okay, we have any questions? Okay, Councillor Persichny.
Yeah, through the chair to Mr. Hanlon. On the tax exemption, I know the golf course is not going anywhere. If the Friendship Center was to move or change locations, would the tax exemption follow them or would it remain on the property?
Sir, through you to Councillor Persichny, it remains property specific. So if they were to relocate, they would have to apply in the new location, and the tax exemption would not carry forward for a new occupant in that building.
Okay, do any other councillor members have any questions? Okay, with that said, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Item number 2, small community option program granted by Morgan, and I will call for the question. Call for the motion. Councillor Beyer.
I so moved.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Beyer. And Morgan Roberts. There we go. She's live.
Thank you, Councillor Chenard. So I am here tonight with a request for decision for the Small Community Opportunities Program grant. Administration would like to go after this grant. The application is, if the application is successful, the grant would cover up to 90% of the expenses that are talked about in the proposal that you're looking at. The proposal would be used to create a communities ambassador program. that would highlight the great things that we have here in our community, as well as create leadership opportunities and support micro events during the summer and fall of 2024. So we expect that this would generate attraction for the community, positive community engagement, as well as leadership development. The town's contribution for this event, or this program, pardon me, would be coming primarily out of the economic development budget, which is already established, and under the contracted services in particular. The reason why we're putting this forth is we feel that it aligns with this strategic plan, particularly in fostering a robust and adaptable economy with the attraction, retention of businesses and citizens. We also feel that it fits in with creating a connected community that is safe and inclusive, as it's creating community-minded leaders in the community. So at this time, we ask that council support this application and moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? Go ahead. Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the chair to Ms. Roberts, thank you very much for the presentation, and thank you for looking into this grant. I totally support this motion. I see just in the RFD, in terms of public stakeholder engagement, a committee made up of community ambassadors, the town of Edson EDO, and residents will be assembled for recruiting ideas. Any specific individuals or recruiting that's going to be happening that you're thinking about if we do get the grant at that time?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. So we would be looking at some already identified leaders in the community. There are some particular organizations that are already doing great work in our community that we would like to highlight. And then we would be looking to public residents as well that are interested and passionate on that topic. So I don't have a full list by any means, but that would be something that would be organized moving forward.
Okay, any more questions from council? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you, carried unanimously. And item number 3, Northern Region Economic Development Grant, also presented by Morgan Roberts. So I will call the question. Oh, sorry, call for a motion. Councillor Taylor.
I move that council endorse administration's application to the Northern and Regional Economic Development Grant.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Morgan, please.
Thank you. So our second RFD for the night is for the Northern and Regional Economic Development Grant. So this is another economic development-based grant that the administration is looking to apply for. So this grant in particular is a matching 50% grant. And we're looking at Main Street revitalization and beautification. And in this particular proposal, we're looking at some of the low-hanging fruit. We recognize that this is not a full proposal for a full downtown revitalization. This would be more smaller items that could eventually be utilized in a larger process moving forward. So a much larger revitalization plan could be looked at in the coming years as well, but this would be a good step forward and a way to really maximize the assets that we have, highlight what we're doing well already, and make sure that it is a more walkable center downtown with place-based economics in mind. So at this time, I'd like to point out that it's in alignment with the strategic plan under fostering a robust and adaptable economy, highlighting the vibrant downtown core assets with attraction and retention of businesses and residents, as well as creating a connected community that's safe and inclusive, featuring a more enjoyable, walkable downtown core. I kindly ask that council support this decision moving forward to apply for this grant.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? Councillor Beyer first.
Through the Deputy Mayor to Ms. Roberts, thank you for bringing both of these grants forward. I definitely wholeheartedly support this. It'd be really exciting to get a little boost to our downtown community. And my question is, when do you expect that we would receive notice on whether we are a successful recipient of either of these grants?
Great question. So we would find out in the spring of 2024 if we're successful in the grant application.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Morgan, have you, at this point, I know it's early, but have you looked at any other communities which might be helpful as far as a model for building on this?
Absolutely. So we have been in touch with a number of communities that are approximately in line with the size of Edson. Also communities that focus on a downtown core that has an older history as well as a slant. All of these things will be taken into consideration, and there are quite a few models that we're looking at. We'd like to be able to take a model that's already proven to be successful and be able to put a spin on it for Edson and make it ours.
Councillor Bevan.
Through the chair, Morgan, when you've done your walk around town with the businesses and that, it's been a while since we got it and we didn't have people do it. How did they take it? Did they give you good input? And were you happy with what, they were telling you and that, and something like this would be able to apply to what they were looking for?
So I can say that I started back in October with the town of Edson as your economic development officer, and since that time I've had more than 50 sit-down interviews with businesses here in our community. And I can say that the majority of them have mentioned an interest in improving the downtown core as an attraction retention capability for the town of Edson.
Okay, I just have one question for you. On some of these ones we're doing it, have we approached some of the business, like you're saying, vegetation stuff? So let's say the business wants to do more. Are we going to be open to kind of a cost sharing with them?
I think we would absolutely be open to that. At this point, the grant will feature several different options within that, and then we will have the option on how we are exactly going to spend those funds if we are awarded. There would always be the opportunity for businesses to sort of get on board and do more, and I think the town of Edson would be very interested in working with those businesses.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions from council? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, item number 4. What? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Excuse me. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Chouinard. Can I ask it for a small process improvement, just for the benefit of our guests in the gallery tonight and perhaps online, and also for the minute taker, if either you could read out the motion prior to,
Gotcha.
or even if the councillor making the motion could read it out, just for clarity, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep, go ahead. Oh, sorry. Councillor Bissett.
Councillor Byer did read out the motion.
I was going to say, yes, she did. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. The next item, I'm going to call a conflict common practice because of the other hat I wear. This is involving recycling. So the items particularly won't, so I'm going to declare a conflict and leave the room. At that time, I need council to choose a chairperson in my absence because as deputy mayor, the mayor's not here, so I need a person. So at that time, I would probably ask for someone to nominate someone unless someone wants to volunteer. Councillor Byer.
Thank you. Through the chair, I would nominate Councillor Pisicini to hold that role because he knows how to use the computer system.
Perfect. Okay, with that said, we're going to vote on it. Those in favor? Councillor Pisicini, I will return. You can vote against.
This chair's not set up. The what? All right. All right. We haven't moved it yet. I don't have my computer in front of me. If I could get a motion, please. Motion number 1, that council accept the report for the Edson District Recycling Society as information. Oh yeah, I hit the button. You think I know how to use this.
Okay, I so move.
Thank you. And Anne, welcome.
Yes, I've got to remember that. I'm Anne, and I'm the overall manager of Edson Recycling Society. I want to introduce Jonah Kuzmik. He's worked there now, how many years?
I think 11.
11, and he's only 26 or so. Yeah, so he's been there a long time. He started as a student. He is the operation manager. So he is now moved up the system and is taking care of the day-to-day activities and the staffing. But we wanted to do an overview. Actually, Clayton invited us here today because there's a new program starting provincially, correct? And it's called EPR, and just understanding what it is, what it covers. And he wanted a little bit update on the 2022 and 2023 volumes, and then a little bit on our community programs. So it is a new provincial program that we've been lobbying for about 10 or 15 years. I gotta do that, right? Yeah. Okay, a little bit about Recycling Society though, just as long-term. We started way back in this chamber in 1990. So that's how many years ago? 33 years ago? I don't even want to remember. But 33 years ago, it evolved throughout the years and has changed its format a little bit and growing with the community and growing with the province. It was developed with a partnership between the town and county residents, the business community, and actually Jean Chouinard was one of those members, and the municipalities of Yellowhead County and town of Edson. So it was very well based on a successful partnership, I will say, based on communication, cooperation, collaboration between those four entities, and it was a very strong that set the foundation for where we became. And things added, things grew, it changed the format, but very effective. We hear feedback from a lot of different areas in the community modeling after our program. So. Okay, that's a long-winded as to what our mandate is, but it's just to provide education, to provide the people with an option of recycling in the community. And we have certain guiding principles. We wanted to make sure 100% of what we actually produce is recycled and not into a landfill. We want to lose local markets as much as possible, all of those good things, and be sustainable. So what happened, or what the current movement is towards, is something called EPR, which stands for Extended Producer Responsibility. And a number of your councillors have already been through the conferences, have gone through a session we had. And so we're one of the last provinces actually to go through this. So it's not reinventing the wheel. It's been done in Ontario, BC. What it does is it switches a responsibility for a product that is extended to the post-consumer stage of the product's life. So it's the manufacturers, in essence. So it's a pendulum. Instead of municipalities or consumers paying for it, it is actually that person or group that built it or manufactured it, then takes care of the cost of getting that to the grave. Big thing is the regulation came in fact last year. It is a very somewhat confusing system, maybe, Clayton. It's interesting. A lot of unknowns, and so there's going to be a lot of flexibility and learning curves. But one of the big things is it wants to establish consistent recycling services across the province. So in fact, what Carrick Creek offers is the same as Edson or Edmonton. So it's all consistent across the province. That's a big move. It is to maintain or improve access to recycling. So it's to actually bring everyone up to speed. It shifts the entire financial and operation responsibility of collecting, sorting, processing, and recycling designated materials to the producers. What the hope is that if a producer is paying for the end recycling, maybe they'll look at packaging differently. Maybe they'll go for things that are lighter weight, that are more reusable, that are actually recyclable instead of things that are not currently being able to recycle. So they're going to look at that cost. So it's in fact to drive it to be less packaging and to be more sustainable. Currently, now this is a big one, is EPR covers only residential materials, not ICI. And ICI stands for industrial, commercial, and institutional, like a school, like a hospital, like other entities or businesses. It's not covered under EPR. So the producer responsibility organization, it's called a PRO, is an organization appointed by a producer to act on it as an agent on behalf of that producer. A PRO must be not-for-profit and cannot be affiliated with an entity or an individual that provides recycling services. So it can't be related to a GFL or another organization. Now, those PROs then set up the system or how a municipality is going to look at that. And there'll be options along the way that the municipality has as to how they want to handle their material. Cut myself off. Okay. So under Alberta, there will be 2 EPR systems. One will be for single-use products, packaging, and printed materials. So the PRO for this is a group called Circular Materials. They take care of Ontario's and BC's program, very large. These are what they stand for and went over with us at our last RCA. They're collaborating within Alberta communities so that they want to make sure municipalities are at the table. There's include limiting the impact of transition to residents, so they don't want it to be a big, huge change to them. A uniform expanded material line across the province, so everything is the same across the province. Leverage existing infrastructure, so they say, they don't want to throw away everything that you're doing that is correct. So it's building on it and enhancing it, or in some cases, there might not be too much of a change. Circularity, so shift towards providing materials so producers use a recycled content in that packaging. So that's one, is that single use. There's another section called the hazardous and special project. Used to be, the PRO for this is called product care, which includes products intended for consumer use only. That's a big thing. Original containers with labels. Does not include products included for ICI use. Items with hazardous labels only. So this one. So Alberta Recycling Management Authority, which already looks after tires, it looks after computers and paint. They have will become the oversight for the new EPR system. They'll be the ones collecting all the data to put it into the system to see where we're at as our recovery rate. Theirs is an oversight role only. So it just is to see that they don't operate a program, but ARMA just looks after the oversight part. So there's a regulation that sets the minimum outcomes. So there's going to be a minimum that everyone has to meet. The agreement on the oversight and administration provides the government's expectation for the ARMA. So that's been set in place. ARMA has developed bylaws that do the regulatory arrangements and the policies and procedures. So it's a very complicated system, but these things are in place. So the next steps, so we're right in September 23. They've got their bylaws, they got the regulation system. So the next part is right now that we're in is the community and producer registration. So what'll happen is with ARMA, the town has to register as a community program. Recycling Society already did register as a processor. So now instead of looking as part of the municipalities, we're actually the processor. So we had to register with them and say what we collect, volumes, all those things. We are also registered for the HHP. And so as a collector for that. So we're the processor, the middle person. the producer verification, then the phase 1 is the launch. And so that's not even next spring, it's the spring after. And then phase 2 is another phase. So there's a lot of hurdles in here. And everything is subject to change because we're not sure exactly how things are going. So PPP, what does it stand for? It's packaging-like products like food containers, foil and bags, boxes, and objects purchased by or supplied to consumers expressly for the purpose of protecting, containing, or transporting commodities. It's a big, wide range. But anything that is used is a packaging-like material. Anything that's a paper product, and then also single-use products that are originally disposed of after a single use or short-term use. So it includes a wide, broad range of material. Now, I forgot to mention this. So the Pro Circular has hired a director from BC to be their Alberta director, who was very much involved in the BC program. So they just announced that last week. So it was suggested by the RCA that, look towards BC if you want to see what it might look in your community. So I do have the brochures that they have, and also, a list of items. But, and there's a copy if anyone wants one, but it is going to be very similar. I don't think they're going to reinvent too much stuff with it. Okay, impact on Edson. It transfers the cost and liability for residential recycling from municipalities and taxpayers to the producers. So they will be paying whether you have contracts with someone else or a portion of it. That's the part that is still a little, I'm not sure how they're going to be managing that. It's posed to save municipalities about $100 million a year. And the big change for Edson residents is when I went through the list, the only thing that we don't collect that they are already, that is their benchmark and that they want to get everyone to, is foam, being a styrofoam. That will be the only, when I look at items, that's the only thing that we're already there. I mean, and we're held up as an example of how to collect all those items and find markets. So that's good. That's a good thing. The one thing that I will talk to Clayton about is that we do have a place in BC, but the one thing is we don't want to be lower service level than we are currently. So in that location, the depot is only open 4 days a week for 3 hours at a time. The accessibility is drastically less. So that will have to be something that we make sure that Pro knows about here. There's a reason why our volumes are higher than any other municipality rurally in Alberta. It's because we carry everything and we do it well, and we also are open more and help with collecting of those. So those are the only changes realistically for us here. The hazardous might be something a little bit different, and that's, I'm not sure. I mean, the collector was saying it was going to be so much worse under this system, but the thing to remember is the current HHW system collects all hazardous materials. If it's in a jar that's labeled differently, if it's all a wider range of materials, the municipalities way back when here said, we want to be doing fluorescent light tubes. We don't want to see it in the landfill and become leachate. So that's why the municipalities invested in that. But if items are not in their original container products under this, they won't be paid for. So there is some glitches in that system that What they're saying is maybe municipalities will have to top up that fund, like, or how that's going to be handled. I mean, the thing is, people don't understand when they come to the depot. They don't understand why you can't take this that's not in this label or that. I mean, yes, you can educate people, but when it comes down to it, it's a very hard thing to communicate or to, no, we can't take that, but you go and put it into your garbage. So the HSP, a producer must, so the probe must provide a common collection system for designated materials at no charge by April 1st, 2025. Now, what's included in those designated materials is the issue. Yeah, I mean, communities with a population either or greater than must have at least one permanent collection. Greater than 10,000, but at least that amount must have at least one permanent collection depot. And so we already have a permanent collection right now that services this community. And we also have toxic roundups. So we are well covered, and we're already at the where we need to be. The big impact will be on us as the EDRS. Of a new product as needed. If there is any other products, we'll have to figure out a way to do it. But Jonah is very handy at doing that. The other thing is we collect both commercial and residential. So we're going to have to figure out a way, because the commercial we will still market. The residential we won't market. It'll go to their main collection site. But that is something that I've talked to them about, that we can work around by either doing test pilots, doing certain products are only residential in our community. I mean, the only thing that isn't is cardboard, that there's that division, but it can be worked around. So what our nightmare will be contracts. Currently, we have 3, one with the town and county and one with town of Hinton. This then potentially will have a commercial with each of those three entities, but we'll also have probably a residential recycling contract with the pro to collect or to process those materials, with another 3 different kinds of contracts. And then on top of that, household special products. So yeah, there will be a few headaches along the way, but it can be doable. Change from 2 contracts to potentially 7 or 8. And we already have contracts with the other entities, so it's doing that. The other thing is maintaining accurate data collection. Because if you've got that many different, you've got to be able to do data collection on what source this material is coming from. That's what we've been working on. We knew this was coming. So the last 5 years, we've worked on a different data collection and weighing system, which we got a University of Calgary person to create the system, Excel system for it. They are looking promising at that, because Jonah will talk about that. That'll be needed, but we knew it's coming. And so we've been preparing for this. The weight of material process, the weight by type. To ARMA, all we have to do is a lump sum. We diverted this amount of material. But in fact, for the pro or for the municipalities, we're going to have to be able to separate that out. Okay, so Jonah will take care of this.
So EDRS utilizes 2 different systems to measure our inventory. We do an internal record keeping and a computer generated data tool. So our internal inventory record keeping, we do bale made sheets. So we mark every bale made, we mark on our sheet. We track all our oil shipments, or like used oil, filters, containers. We track all our monthly incoming Hinton shipments. So they do the residential stuff in those, such as plastic, paper, cardboard even, and we keep that at the end of the month. We track all those weights, but we also enter that in that data tool. And then we also do a monthly inventory. So we count every bale we have in the yard on hand, and we subtract anything shipped, anything redone, and we just keep track of what we have on hand with that.
There's lots of paper involved, so every single, if the county comes in with with some plastic or bale wrap, a form is filled out so that we put it upstairs, and so that our student enters that into that data tool. So everything, whether it's from a county site, from Weyerhaeuser, Weldwood, wherever, that is inputted.
So yeah, we have a data sheet for any, like Ann said, any materials that come in. So those sheets get entered right into our data tool. All materials coming into and are shipped from the depot are recorded. The material, the dates, the sources, the designation, the hauler, and the weights. So we know who brought what, how much of what, from where to us at any time.
And where anything is shipped to.
Yes. That's just, that's kind of the main page of that data program. So you can put any date there, and you can see, you can write in your source, your hauler, and then at the bottom, we can add the weights of if it's a load or a truck of cardboard bales.
And if it's an inflow or outflow, so is it coming in
Yeah.
or is it going out?
So new data can be loaded, old data reviewed. The tables and graphs can be processed from here. Information from shipping documents, inventory sheets, and drop-off slips are entered weekly. So we have like a admin upstairs. We have just anything that comes in, we put it in one bin once a week. She'll enter them all.
And it's all color coordinated because it's a lot easier to follow those.
This is some of the example of some of the graphs you can pull right from that. So this is from last year's. So 2022 is the incoming material. So this is all the material we got brought to us. So we keep track of all the weights. Yeah.
And then this is where it's coming.
And then, yeah, so then this graph is where it all came from. So we can pull that as well, just wherever, who brought what, where. And then we also have the weights on everything.
So we have a number for all the material coming in, and then we have a number of everything going out. So the difference is what is produced by Edson. Does that make sense?
Then this one's an
Just a
example.
real quick question. What's OCC?
Old corrugated cardboard.
Thank you.
So that's where your big portion comes from.
Yeah, we get most of that by all these. But this is an example of what's outgoing from last year's. And yeah, cardboard is the main draw.
And so we then did something on the 2023. Your package is wrong because we found we had the wrong year on the date, and then I went to put in the materials, and someone had added some, so the number is a little off.
So this is just from the 2023 incoming. So we still have another month to add into this yet, but this is just how it is so far.
Actually, this was to end of October, so 2 months.
Oh, 2 months.
Yeah.
This is the same thing, but this year's source of our stuff. So where we got all the material.
So you can see there's different transfer sites, all the county transfer sites, all of everyone is, if egg product came from on farm or the county hauled it, it's quite detailed.
And also the outgoing from this year as well will be updated with 2 more months, but that's how it's going so far. So I think you can make different graphs, whatever you guys need right from
You
that
just
program.
pick what you want, what variable you want to look at. Actually, it's a quite neat data tool. Actually, the Recycling Council helped us with that, and so a number of other communities have adopted that. It was in a recommendation from 2016 from the regional authority.
So, EDRS community program. So since we are a nonprofit organization, all our profits, we just put right back into the community. So some examples are community garden, and that sometimes we help weed some plots, or a lot of, there's a couple school groups now that want to come help out. So we meet them out there, give them a couple just tasks to do because they just want to volunteer. We do senior recycling days, so they come with their truck full of recycle, and our staff will do it for them, and then we provide a lunch. We also do school recycling pickups, so once a week we go around and we pick up all the recycling from the schools. We just have a truck and trailer to do that. We also do their bottles, so we go in, get their bottles, drop it off for them, and then the guy at the bottle depot will call us. We pick up the money and deliver it. We do a lot of the tours and in-school education programs. So a lot of school groups, daycare groups, any kind of kids groups will book in with us, see how the depot works. Or sometimes we go into the schools, classroom to classroom, and explain recycling program, how it helps everything, and how they can do it in their own classroom. We have the take it or leave it. We did a Christmas garage sale, so we do that once a year. That just happened in November. We assist the schools to develop their recycling and composting programs, and we've performed a few waste audits on them too. So then they can
Peter
see.
remembers those ones. And the key of that is one of the schools, Pine Grove, went from 200 kilograms a week down to 10 or 20. So it has a big impact, and it's supporting schools in that venue.
So we kind of like overlook if they need any bins or recycling bags. I think we give them a bunch of their compost bags, their bags we like to use for bottles, and any bin. So we help them kind of kick off their programs.
And actually, in all the parks in Edson and in all the schools, we acquired a grant that actually helped the town with that, and all the schools along with Main Street. So that's part of our role, I think.
We also we do a rental of party supplies. So we have a lot of tables, chairs. We also put aside wine glasses, silverware, plates. So people kind of, if weddings or big functions, they come and rent from us. We do a lot of work programs with Scope, McMahon, Community Service. So we have sometimes they're high school kids we work with. Sometimes they're guys with challenges or anything like that. We have an on-site solar demonstration system. I think, was it this year we just added more?
Yep, and we have a solar trailer that goes to Canada Day for the town and various things.
So we take that solar trailer around and do all those. And then we also provide activities for Environment Week for kids or schools or.
So it's a wide ranging of involvement, and that's why maybe we do that higher volume, because we are networking within the community. And so those are just some of the pictures that is included in your, looks kind of cute. And actually there was a big toad in that water on the top. He came to live at the community garden. And the last one is a friend that people probably know in the community, and he decided to take a love seat from the take it or leave it on his bike. So I actually show that across the province as to how much Etsonites recycle and how they can balance things on a bike. But that is it. I think we took a little, hopefully not as too long there, but I do have the brochures from Hinton, or from BC, if anyone wants any, just to see. But I don't know if there's any questions. You can ask Jonah. He knows it all.
Great. Thank you very much for the presentation. Councillor Moore has questions.
Yes, I had two questions, actually, if that's okay. Through the chair, styrofoam, what will that be recycled into?
What they do is it's electric heat system where they melt it and it makes it into marshmallows type material, and then they put it in bars, and then they reuse it. I'm not sure the end product. I've seen how they do it, but probably here I think it will be collected because it takes a lot of volume and then baled somehow. We looked at, I think. Mayor was asking about that question about a few years ago, that we actually looked at it, but it's the fumes from that is very, I don't think very healthful. And so it's better with a ventilation system, and it was cost communities about $100,000 to do that, and it just wasn't worth for the volume it was diverting. But.
And a supplemental question, what exactly is ugly plastic?
Ugly plastic is silage plastic. Yeah, it's stinky, and sometimes it's not very clean when it comes in from a farmer. So we've been designated as the Northern Alberta collection agent for twine. So we get things from Bonnyville and Grand Prairie and all over, and we get offset for that. But sometimes there's plastic that comes in that's called ugly plastic.
Thanks, Councillor Moore. We'll do Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the chair to Ms. Oriat and Jonah. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm not as knowledgeable as other members of council on the EPR, so thank you very much for the presentation. So I just want to be clear on this: residents really won't see an operational change within this.
They won't immediately or for the near future. I mean, it depends on what that pro decides in coordination. A lot of these materials have to go through a depot system. Okay. So it's up to them, and it's up to them price-wise. What option do they want to look at? The only addition for items for residents is styrofoam.
And just a follow. So, and residents, now will any businesses see, like, and this is now the shift, right? Yeah. Will businesses end up seeing an operational change in terms of seeing what we're seeing?
No, it'll be treated the same, but that'll be the town already on your business taxation already charged for that system. Okay. So that's what I meant by two different contracts. Okay. We will still probably have the contract for handling your commercial. Where the problem comes in, schools are not thought of as residential. So that's a little wrinkle. The other thing is with HSP, quite often if the town has pool chemicals or other items that they bring in, we currently accept it because in fact we charge back the municipality. Under that system, schools, municipalities, and because that's going to be something we're going to have to work around.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you so much. I will have another question after Councillor Byer. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Byer.
Okay, through the chair to Ms. Oriat and Jonas, thanks for your presentation. I know I've attended a few of the sessions on this EPR program, and I'll said it before, I'll say it again, that it's a very frustrating system, and it sounds like they're trying to do some great things, but it's really frustrating that they're not actually extending this to the businesses as well, which are, from my understanding, the larger consumers of a lot of these products. I recall in one of the sessions, it mentioned that, you know, with some of these phases that they're going to be bringing this out, that it would be residential only, and that it would not include like multi-family homes of, I can't remember, it was like more than 4 homes or something, you know, and apartments. Do you have an understanding how we're going to manage excluding those people
Yeah.
for that between those phases?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can try to answer that. So multifamily dwellings are included.
Okay.
And I think and Anne's done a really good job of sharing a lot of this. I think what's going to happen here is once we start negotiating with the pros that are representing the producers, that's where we're going to try to get a lot of these answers. It's going to be a lot of negotiating, talking about these streams, how they want to do it, how we're doing it. One thing that we've been, that's been shared so far by the province is that our residents should not receive a lower level of service than they get today. So that'll be something that we'll be watching for sure.
Yes.
It needs to be the same or higher. So it's just the details of how to do that are going to be challenging and really until, that's why we have this whole year, basically 2024, to engage with those pros and try to hammer out these details.
Yeah, and the thing is, we are already at that level or higher, so it's going to be to maintain that. But they will, of course, try to lowball it and give the lower amount that they could possibly give the community. So that's something that Clayton is in charge of.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, through the chair, back to our presenters. I agree with Councillor Byer. Like, on the face of it, it sounds, this is a great program, it could certainly save, and I think it will save, according to our RFT, some funds. We'll have to figure out what that is in time. My next question goes, and it probably goes beyond the municipality. You mentioned that the PPP will advocate a shift towards more recycled packaging and content. Is that only for Alberta producers, or is that trying to reach beyond the province and elsewhere?
For everything that comes into the province from wherever it's produced is the same thing with TVs and electronics. Everything that comes in this product, it's been done, so that's why not reinventing. But yes, it'll be whatever enters this province.
Okay.
From wherever.
So that's a huge undertaking. Okay. All right. Well,
Oh, yes,
Yes,
it is.
all right.
It's going to be interesting. But we do got to just remember we're in the same boat. And so it's communications. That's why the RCA is important. So keeping up to date with everything that's happening.
this is really informative. Thank you.
Thanks. If you ever have any questions, feel free to call me. And if I don't have the answer, I will definitely point you in the right direction. But this has been a hot topic for about 10 years in the province.
Councillor Byer?
Thanks. Through the chair, just one more question to either our presenter or maybe Mr. Kitlitz. I know it kind of amalgamates into the next motion as well. There are some, you mentioned, Anne, that some minimum amounts of materials that must be collected, and they have some pretty, other, or else something will happen. I don't exactly know what that is, but who is responsible for encouraging or like maybe advertising? I'm not sure what method that is going to be desired to try to increase residents to recycle these products. Whose responsibility is that? Is that then like the pro? Is that you as a kind of intermediary person, or the municipality?
I think, well, it's the oversight body, ARMA, will deduct those numbers, but they will pass on to the pro, and the pro will know you're under on cardboard or you're under on these items. I think it'll go back to the contractor, but they will be producing the material the same across the province. But included in there, I think, is something for education. Yeah. And so there might be something to whichever body does the education in your community to do that.
Okay.
But it's kind of tricky because schools are a key way of doing that education, but it is an institution and is not included. So it would be my argument.
Perfect. Thank you.
Council, any other questions? I have one question. If you're going to be splitting the loads between residential and commercial, and I know right now you're bailing and you watch the markets for cardboards, which would mean you'd have less cardboards, say, on a commercial side, because half, say, going to residential. Will that affect the operations, or is that something that'd be easily managed within?
We would be compensated for processing that material, and whether it's you know, by the pro for the residential and from our markets for the commercial. So I think it'll work out probably the same. The one thing is there's no up and down with this, right? So they give you processing $100 a ton. Whether like 6 months ago, how much was it? Minus 20 that we were having to pay to get the cardboard. So it will lend stability into the system, which will be actually helpful. Low grade, let's say we have to still pay minus 25 for it. Under that program, you're actually still paid for processing it. So, and they take the brunt of that. So it is, there'll be changes and it'll be a learning curve. That's why I have Jonah. But yeah, no, there will be, that will be it. And cardboard, I'm saying residentially here is about 25% of what we produce. All of the low end stuff, the plastics, the newspaper and all those are all 100% residential. The cardboard, which is the gravy, probably only about 20% is residential. So what we are going to have to do is doing test studies on weights and measurements and having maybe a different area for the cardboard that's residential versus commercial. We're going to have to see.
Well, great. Thank you very much. Does council have any further questions? I'll call a question and all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. All right. Next, require a motion from somebody that council direct administration to pre-register with the Alberta Recycling Management Authority as a community under the Extended Producer Recycling Program. Councillor Taylor.
I so move.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Kittlitz.
Mr. Chair, I'll speak to this just quickly. Just obviously there was a lot of information presented to council tonight on EPR. Respect to this motion, the way the program works, I think if you saw one of the slides Ann had, there's a phase 2. If we elected not to register during this phase, the way I understand it is phase 2 is for municipalities across Alberta that don't necessarily have programs right now, and they're saving that for the phase 2. If we didn't register, we'd be lumped in with that phase, which means implementation is a year later, April 2026. But I think what I understand from with my conversations of what it does, it leaves us open to maybe not have as much control over how we implement our program because it'll already be implemented across the majority of the province, and we may have to do whatever they're doing. Whereas if we stick with phase 1 and register here before the end of the year, as a community, we're at the table negotiating with the pros and having an influence. So that's why our recommendation is to pre-register as of right now before the end of the year so we can get involved in that. So I just want to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Kittlitz. Does anybody have any questions? I can speak from going to the conference this year. It was the talk of the conference. That's all anybody talked about. So a lot of talk amongst the recycling producers throughout the province. So you have a question, Councillor Breyer?
Yes, through the chair to Mr. Kittlitz. So I know we have a couple documents in here, the regulation and then the registration procedure. And I know from everything I've heard that registering is the best thing to do, as you just mentioned. So have the bylaws been released, and do we have an idea of what they're about? Because they were saying any minute, in April, that any minute now they're going to be released, and it's December.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I haven't seen the bylaws yet. I haven't found them. I don't know if you have, Ann, yet. I think they're supposed to be kind of.
They're out there.
Yeah, I haven't found them yet either. Seen them. Yeah. So not yet, but once we do get an eye on them, we'll try to absorb what they mean. But I haven't seen them yet.
Thank you, Mr. Kittlitz. Any other discussions? Here, and I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? None. That motion is carried. If we get Deputy Mayor Chenard back in here, and I will turn the chair back over to him.
in 2024. So I'm looking for a motion for this, please. Councillor Bevan.
I'll make it so.
Thank you. Okay, and the presenter is Doug Woodstaff, correct? Okay, thank you, Doug.
There isn't any policy in place that would guide staff to be able to have an opportunity to waive fees. The only guiding piece that staff have at this point in time is the bylaw for fees and charges. With that, it requires the CAO, to bring to council an opportunity to waive those fees. There has been a request made by the parent council through the school in organizing the graduation ceremony, and they would request that the fees be waived for the opportunity for them to host their graduation ceremony at the leisure center. There isn't a facility large enough within the community to host that. Their school gymnasium is not of a size that would be able to have many attending from the community beyond the parents and a few attendees with the graduates. So with this, we are, administration is recommending to council a waiving of the fees for the period of time for them to be able to host the ceremony, do the setup and take down.
Okay, thank you. Any council wish to speak to this? Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the chair to Doug. Weird question. I know the community's been hosting our grads for years. Prior to the arenas, we held it in the rec complex. And for years, there's always been a daily fee for the one day, and they were always allowed to set up. And I believe that was the practice last year. I'm just curious what caused the change to lead to this. Or we just all of a sudden follow the same policies and now we have to remove it? Or was there something that changed in there that made us in this position where we have to do this?
Previously, when there was the facility out at the golf course, it was large enough to host this. Then when when that facility was no longer available, Holy Redeemer then moved to the leisure center. In the case, there's been the long-standing where both of the high schools within the community were holding their receptions at the leisure center, and that had been waived. This was separate from that, and yes, without a guiding policy, it was something that was being done with outside of policy.
There you go. Go ahead, Councillor Byer.
Thanks. Through the Deputy Mayor to Mr. Wagstaff. So my question is just a spin-off of Councillor Pisichny's there. So the fees were being waived before. I'm just looking for some clarity on, have we waived them before? I don't recall this item being brought before council before. And how we've been, I guess, managing that in the past couple of years.
So again, yes, that was outside of policy. So it has been waived traditionally for both of the high schools when they were doing their reception side. The ceremony side has changed, and in the last couple of years, it was overlooked as far as it wasn't following a policy to guiding. So this year, when that was done in the spring, it was looked at on trying to be able to have some revenue generation, and that was the change at that point. So when it was applied this year, and the group was informed that there would be charges for their booking, two things happened, indicating that the time that it was taking to do the setup and take down would be shortened. As well as a charge would be for the weekend, for the days that they were going to use the dry floor. That sparked then the request that came forward for waiving those fees.
Okay, if no one else has a question, I have a concern about it. Oh, sorry. Oh, did you have a follow-up, Councillor Byer? No, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't know how to work the machine. Carry on.
Okay. Through the Deputy Mayor to administration and council and members of the gallery. So we have had, so I'm a bit conflicted with this. We have had user groups come forward and ask for things to be waived in a leisure center when they rent things. And some of those have been presented in camera, and they've had to provide business plans and a bit more information that isn't public information. So we discussed it and looked at that, and at the time, the consensus was with that council at that time, of course, that as a user of the facility, everybody is getting subsidized, and that's known. And how do you make stuff like this fair? I can totally empathize with any user group that comes forward and wants to use the facility and ask for a discount or waiving of that. The challenge is that it can start to set a precedent, and if we waive it for this group, do we waive it for the next group? And in 2 weeks, we're going to have 24 letters about different community groups that want their fees waived. And, how do we manage that? Right now, we're in the process of talking with our user groups in the community about what they call, what we all call fair, what they call fair and what we call fair. And do they feel that they are having fees that reflect their usage of the facility? And so right now we're having those discussions, our administration is, and thank you for that. And council's aware that those discussions are happening. So if we waive this, then how is that fair for the other user groups that have admitted that what they're paying right now is fair? Are they going to want all their fees to be waived too? So I'm conflicted with this. I'm definitely empathetic that maybe this is a new fee for them, if they haven't experienced it before. But I'm challenged to accept this motion as it's worded, because I don't know how I can make this fair for them and make this fair for all the other ratepayers and all the other users of the facility. So I would be declining. I will be opposing this motion.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. I agree with Councilor Byer here in that, as I've been out and about, people who have read this here have actually said the same thing when they they rent our facility or putting something in there. They're saying now that, like for when the rodeo goes in there, or the bowlers or whatever it is, they're saying, do we get a waiver on that? Do we get a special fee on that now? So I can see where it's going, and if we do it for one, they're saying, why can't we do it for everybody in that? So I think it's we either have to make one decision one way or the other. We keep the fees as is or whatever, or are we waiving for everybody in that, which I don't think is any benefit for us for sure.
So as Councillor Bayer had indicated, we are working with a consultant right now, both council and administration, with regards to a fee structure moving forward, as well as policies. They've indicated that there is some gaps there. They're going to provide some guidance to the town of Edson in some suggestions of how that can be closed. Certainly for 2025, we're expecting to be able to bring forward to council some other policies that would help guide this type of request in the future. There has been a history, as it was noted, for the high school not to have had to pay for Holy Redeemer, not to have had to pay for this in the past. So I think if we're looking at a consistency basis, there is some measure here for council to be able to say, this is a one-off, there is a historical precedent, and that in 2025, we're expecting to be able to have some policy in place that will help resolve this for both staff and council in the future.
No, Councillor Przyczny.
Yeah, through the deputy mayor. I think this is maybe, I understand, I don't think it's a fair comparison to compare a graduating class, either whichever school division they belong to say a rodeo or an indoor rodeo. Those are not-for-profit groups that are there to raise money. Our graduating classes are generally small groups of parents trying to organize an event for our graduating classes. We used to have a facility that Refuse Council has removed. They used to be able to go in there and they could set up, and they actually would work together. The two grad classes at one time, I know, would pick the same color so they didn't have to redecorate, and they would join and decorate and leave in the rec complex for a month, and we wouldn't charge them for it. if there was a fight for ice or we had other stuff going on in June, which we don't in that facility other than the pool, it may be a different story if we have competing things. So I personally am voting in favor of waiving the fees just based on our past practices and the fact that our grad classes, when they have funds left over, they generally donate that. There's places in our community, the bleachers in the high school were donated by the graduating class of 92, I think it was, in Parkland or something. So the money generally gets given back to the schools or back into the community. So nobody's there to make a profit off it or to fundraise off it. It's more just to have a celebration of our youth graduating in our community. So I'm definitely voting in favor of this motion.
If you get to speak last, they stole all the thunder. I'm also voting in favor of this because I feel the same way. This is a graduating class, and I'm not against reviewing it, but I mean, to be fair to our youth, we need to do something for them, and I would agree with Councilor Positioning. We can't compare it to a rodeo or a hockey tournament, so I will also vote in favor of it. So with that said, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, carried, thank you. Okay, now, item number 6, extreme cold emergency cover protocol presented by Doug, that council adopt the extreme cold weather emergency protocol as presented. And I don't know if I called it this time, but there is options. Oh, sorry, I'll get the mover first. Councillor Byer.
I so move that council adopt the extreme cold weather emergency cover protocol as presented.
Okay. Go ahead. The presenter is Doug.
So for starters, I just wanted to add some clarity to this, that what this is not, to start. It's not an operation of the pods or anything similar to the pods that was previously operated here in the town of Edson. It's not a homeless shelter. It's not lodging. It is not normal operations. What we are proposing is a temporary pop-up that would be totally portable, not a permanent solution, and one that could be easily mobilized, easily deconstructed, and it would not be opened unless the protocol of minus 25 degrees Celsius, including the wind chill, has triggered it. It would remain closed at all other times. Primarily, this is an emergency shelter, using that word shelter as in cover, out from the cold, so that it's adequately heated for a vulnerable population that has no other options for overnight, or very limited options to safely go out of an extreme cold area. The emphasis, again, is this is an emergency situation for a small but vulnerable population within the community. Any decision on what to do, where to locate such is not taken lightly, and it does not come to a conclusion easily. Consideration is being given to the impacts of residents, businesses, and an assessment of alternate locations. One of the pieces to this, if council would be willing, is that certainly we would like to strike the place in the vicinity of Griffiths Place Center and have a consideration for the protocol without the location specific. And we are working currently to have procedures in place that would follow behind this protocol for an implementation, including health and safety procedures, both for the public, for our staff, and for anyone that would be utilizing this type of facility. So at this point, I'd like to, ask if acting CAO has any further comments with regards to this motion.
I don't think so at this point. Thank you. Through your deputy mayor, I think certainly it's in front of council for deliberation or discussion, and we'll be prepared to respond or answer any questions that council may have.
Through the deputy mayor, to Doug. Sorry, I'm using your first name because I haven't nailed your last name yet. Yeah, I know, and it has a W on it, so it's throwing me off, so my apologies. I know it predates you as you're new to our community, but I do know the history should be within your department. Is years ago the community put up a trailer, and I believe it was at the airport, an out of the cold trailer, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to go by memory. That was predated when we had the shelter pods. What was the usage at that time? How many people do we understand stayed in it, used it? Do we have numbers on that? Because to me, maybe I'll you know where I'm going with this. $30,000 seems like a considerable amount of money if it's something that we put in place that may not get utilized. So I'm just kind of look for some data on that, knowing that we did have such a thing in the past.
Who wants to respond, Doug? Or Doug, go ahead.
Through the deputy mayor, and I'm also still working on your last name as well. So, so fair enough. No, there was no data collected for certain, only anecdotal. So I've been told that it was low use, for that part. We are approaching this as administration from a commitment from the town of Edson for all of our citizens, that there is a obligation when there is such an urgency and emergency case. This is not a shelter that would be operating for a place to go at any time every night. It's only in the most extreme of weather conditions to help even our emergency services be able to look after other things in cases like this, and not and help mitigate the fact that there may be those that are out in the cold in extreme circumstances. So again, I do really want to emphasize that this is emergency only, with a bare minimum amount of support to get out of the cold.
Yeah, through the chair to, administration, council, to the gallery, and the people watching at home. Obviously, this has been, safe to say, a topic of conversation across town over the last several days. And at first, I do want to thank everybody that's reached out and messaged myself and other members of council and showing up here tonight and watching online. It's good to share your concerns with us and to know that we're listening, right? Mr. Wagstaff already has mentioned, what this is and what this is not. Okay, this is not the shelter pods. This is an emergency out of the cold shelter space to be used in extreme situations, right? And we have to understand, I think there was certainly some confusion based on social media as to this is not a 365-day use shelter. So why do we have this? Well, the primary goal when I look at this here, and Mr. Wagstaff sort of has spoken to this, is that the primary goal is that so no one gets hurt, no one dies. And that must be the primary goal when looking at this. And I don't care who you are in our community, you're valued, and I don't like, I hear some pretty vicious stuff maybe from some residents online that vulnerable individuals out that are unhoused have a different value, and that's incorrect. I'm sorry, I don't share that value. The secondary goal when looking at this concept, this protocol, is to make sure everyone is safe, no matter who you are, whether you're housed or unhoused, whether that safety is real or perceived. And many people feel uncomfortable, and we've heard it online from many letters and emails we've got with regards to individuals who are unhoused or homeless that having mental health and addiction issues, and people feeling unsafe around that. Completely understandable. Completely understandable. Other people it could be perceived safety. They just don't feel comfortable. We saw that with the pods at the recycle depot. They don't feel comfortable. And that's fine as well. So we need to create this so that both those goals are met. I think it's safe to say that the location that was put, and Mr. Wagstaff has already struck that location of Griffiths Park, and that was the biggest concern that we heard from across the field, and was that it can't be at Griffiths Park. It just can't be. There's a school right there, and I opened my agenda package on Friday, and that was the first thing I read, and And I was coming here tonight to say, we are not putting it there. And that's final. Mr. Wagstaff did mention about leaving a location blank on there. I do have a concern with that as well. You know, many residents have written in about other choices and things like that. I think to give transparency to our community, I think we need to state where it's going to be. I think that has to happen, right? I think we need to decide that tonight. We are on borrowed time. Like, it's December 4th or December 5th. The weather has been quite seasonable, but we could already have hit minus 25 at this point. So we are completely on borrowed time. We don't have a council meeting again until January. And certainly I do not want to leave tonight without a protocol, without a place, and then on Christmas Eve have it turn minus 35 and we got a big problem. And we have no protocol in place. So I'll certainly speak to locations at a later moment. I also certainly have a concern with the time frame. According to the protocol, it would be enter at 7 p.m. and leave at 6 a.m. The coldest parts of the day are at that time, like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. So then if you release unhoused individuals at that time, what you're going to see is crimes of what I call crimes of necessity, crimes of survival. They're going to find a backyard. They're going to find a building. They're going to find a place to survive, right? They're going to light a fire somewhere. And then we're going to get calls to RCMP. We're going to get calls to bylaw. We're going to get calls to the fire department. All reasonable calls. And we want to minimize that. So I would suggest, and you're going to, you know, whether or not whatever changes we make to this, we lump together in one motion, but I would say release at 8 a.m. And that's what the previous protocol, I believe said. The final issue that I have in terms of the protocol is the staffing. According to the protocol, we would have 2 staff on site at all times. I don't know if our staff are equipped for this. And because it takes a special individual to sometimes communicate and deal with some of the issues that, whether it be addictions or mental health issues, and the safety of our staff must come into play. That's the second goal that I spoke about, the safety of everyone. And I wouldn't want to put anybody in harm's way, especially if they're untrained. So if we're looking at really pressing forward with this, we might have to look at training for staff. We might have to look at a third party to stay. And I understand Councillor Patricia's point. It is, you know, we're looking at $30,000 for 2 months, and I understand that. But we also have to think about we're dealing with lives here. And that's everyone. That's our staff, that's the unhoused individuals, everyone in the community, right? So if we have to spend a little money to ensure that everyone is safe, then so be it. So those are my comments, and certainly, you know, looking forward to hearing what other council members have to say, and whether or not we have to lump that motion a little later. I know I should mention this, other locations were also mentioned, you know, whether in passing. And I know, I think this is time I mentioned, you know, for me, the Sandy Dump is a location that we could look at. It is, I do understand it is located across the street from the gymnastics club. I understand that. But it is also half a block away from the RCMP station. You can see the building from the Sandy Dump. So there's something about that and a safety, you know, feel to that location. So, but I'm willing to hear, and I can be convinced of other locations. I would be hard pressed to leave tonight without stating a location within the protocol. So those are my comments for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore.
Through the chair to Mr. Wagstaff. What will be the capacity of this trailer? Do we know how many people it can hold at any one time?
We would still need to receive a fire code piece on it, but we're estimating about 20 individuals because it's not a lodging facility, it's not a sleeping facility. It is a large, for lack of any other description, a large bus shelter. It is a trailer that will be kept at a temperature to sustain life so that they won't freeze in the cold. So that's about the estimate of the number of people that would be able to fit in there.
Councillor Byer.
Thanks. Through the chair to administration and council and those in the gallery and watching. So, geez, where do you start? It's a big topic. So I want to kind of back up a couple steps here and kind of help people figure out how we got to where we're at here a little bit. Generally, this Councillor Pisicny mentioned the trailer that we had by the airport there a few years ago, and then the shelter pods were created, and then we didn't have to use that other trailer anymore. The shelter pods have the decision by the groups that were running it decided to stop running it, and just recently, and now we're at this situation. I'm a member of the homelessness, mental health and addictions task force, along with Councillor Taylor, and I was able to attend a meeting on November 20th where a bunch of the groups in our community that kind of deal is the wrong word, that help support the vulnerable population were there, and we kind of asked around, hey, who wants to take this on? And it was crickets. Nobody wanted to take it on. And I'll be quite honest, as a councillor, I don't want to take it on. This is not what a municipality is legislated to do. But when we start hearing about break-and-enters increasing and crime, all of a sudden that gets back to council that, there's issues in the community, and then it becomes our responsibility. My preference is another group takes this on. And at that meeting on November 20th, when we left that meeting, no one was interested. It is my understanding that there is a group that is interested in kind of taking that on. And the province has thrown some money at this. And I say that lightly. It comes with lots of terms, terms that this doesn't meet those terms. They want much more supports than what, as a municipality, we're capable of offering, in my opinion. This isn't what we're in the business to do. And I know there is an application out to ask for some of those monies to be used to do a program like this. So that is something that is in the process, but we don't know if we're approved, if that group is approved for it. Councillor Pisicny asked a kind of a question about that usage, and it was low. If I remember correctly, the reasons why it was low, there were a few reasons. One, that it was like really far out of the way from where they would normally have their services, and it was perhaps putting them in a vulnerable situation as well. That at that time, it was unmanned, it was unsecured, and even though this vulnerable population, we kind of group them as one lump sum, they don't all get along. So it's not, they don't feel safe being in there with each other, right? And that's probably why we would have to have staff in a facility that would house 20 people of the vulnerable population, because it wouldn't be a pleasant evening. And so there were some challenges with that location. The shelter pods were successful in attracting them for many different reasons. And unfortunately, there were some challenges with that too. So I don't know where this is going to end up going tonight. As Councillor Taylor said, if we do make a decision on this tonight, I would feel more comfortable having a location that is decided. Although I would also present an alternative. And so Councillor Taylor did mention that we don't have another council meeting until January. We do have a committee of the whole meeting next week, and there's always an opportunity to hold a special meeting in council if that is our desire, and that if we wanted to do that, we could at that time. And what I would ask is that the community group that has that grant application, that they come and let us know where that is at, because I think there's some value there. And that group is also, they have social workers, they they interact with the homeless population on a daily basis. In addition to that, because I think there's some questions that relate, also the RCMP, they are also professionals in housing the homeless population through the cells. So they are aware of the challenges that can be presented in any location. And I know there's lots of different opportunities, and it's hard to kind of get into all of it because I know some information, but I don't know enough. And if there is an opportunity for that group to get this grant, then we don't have to do this. Then they can do it. And that's their kind of wheelhouse, and it's not really our wheelhouse. But we still want to be able to consult the community and make sure that if there's a location that they would be able to pick, that it's, that it makes sense and that it's accessible to those individuals. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't support that Griffiths Park location. I think it's really challenging for our community, being it so close to a school, and then that accessibility piece. One of the reasons why we were told anyways, why it didn't work out on the airport loop was because it was too far from their services. And I know that's only like a block away from where it's proposed. But if that was too far, I'm challenged that this could be too far too. I'm not the expert. I don't talk to these individuals every day. I don't know, but just from a logical perspective, it seems to be still a little bit far away unless there's a way to transport people to another location. I know that's a big can of worms as well. So I don't know if council has that appetite, or if that's something that is feasible to administration as well.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Councillor Bevan?
Through the chair to everybody. I do understand where this is going and why it's going. I do believe that everybody needs a place to say, for the better word, call home or be warm or whatever, and that, to be able to the elements here and that. But I also was sat on council when we were looking at the shelter pods. They did provide a service there. It was doing pretty good until all of a sudden they decided to stay open 7 days a week. Then they went open 7 days a week, and all happened down there. Everybody just hung around there all the time, and it got to be a real show. And that's not what we wanted. I believe it would have stayed at a minus 25 degrees Celsius. You would open the pods, it would come down there. It wouldn't be where it was right now. It may not even be shut down. But I know that when it stayed open all summer, every day, you never got rid of anybody down there at all. It was just, it was getting really, really bad down there. I know there's different places that they could probably go. We'd have to do a little bit of work on them. I agree that if there's somebody out there that wants to look at this, we have had special meetings in the past. We can put even a clause in our committee of the whole to come back and listen to us. That gives our administration approximately a week to work on this, to get a hold of these people and that, and put something together and come back and share it with us. I don't think we'll come to a decision tonight on this. I think we give them another week to look at it and get a hold of everybody they can, so that we have all the answers that we need or questions that we can ask them and they can ask us. I do not support where it's going right now. If you go down there right now, I drove, it's 0.3 of a kilometer from Griffiths Park to the airport, which is really nothing. I mean, you can walk it and that. But there is some other places where it could go. So I would like to say, I will not support this. It'll be defeated tonight, I won't support. I would like them to come back for the next Tuesday meeting with something where the weather is supposed to stay nice and warm still anyway and that, so we still have a window there where we can, this vulnerable population, won't suffer too much. I mean, cold is cold no matter what you do, where you go. So I would like to say that we table it to let's hear something next Tuesday on it and that, but I won't support the motion tonight.
Okay, thanks you, Councillor Bevan. Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the deputy mayor, maybe actually a little bit further to what Councillor Bevan said. I think our challenge was when the shelter pods stopped being shelter pods and started becoming shelter. and being used in the summer and people living in them is when they fail to be working properly. My question to administration is maybe along those lines, and I know we don't own the facility, but has that option looked at because the system, if I recall correctly, the shelter pods were created because the trailer wasn't working. We created a space, and then when it first started off, it was very regimented, very set up. There wasn't staff monitoring it, but people were let in and let out. And the structure and the infrastructure is already there. And I do remember hearing challenges from the mayor talking about how other communities, when they created shelter pods, they created them on a trailer so they can move them in and out of places, similar to this idea. But I guess maybe my question is, have we relooked at the shelter pods as an emergency protocol, not what they were, because that was not popular in our community. So, and this is such a touchy subject. Nobody wants to see anybody freeze to death, and I mean, nobody wants to sleep outside in -25. But at the end of the day, we also don't want to see people in our ATMs and breaking into people's garages because it's heated, or breaking into a car and stealing it, or hot wiring, or burning our landfill. So those are the challenges. And I guess my question through administration is, have we explored or re-explored looking at the shelter pods which already exist and didn't cost us a pile of money? Have we re-looked at those on an actual -25 and below position?
Okay, Clayton?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So, interestingly enough, and Councillor Beyer, when she was chatting, she talked about the fact that, this isn't a municipal function, and admittedly, ourselves, this is stuff that's hard for our staff. They're working hard. I think we spent a lot of time working with community groups on the more permanent solution, and we've had to pivot here as the weather got colder, and it took us longer to pivot maybe than we would have liked, to change to sort of an emergency to fill the gap until that more permanent solution was provided to the community through other sources. So what I wanted to share is that, as of last week, we had to get something because we were feeling the panic of one last council meeting and the weather changing, and there was a lot of moving parts. And between now and then, we've learned so much more. Our insurance, for example, they're recommending we don't have staff, and we have to have hired professionals in the facility, which cost extra money. So we've really learned that. And this morning we met as a group to talk about other locations and other options, and start to hone in what this looks like. And in fact, we did talk about the existing pod location, given the fact that it is owned by the town, and to set it up with the emergency temporary configuration we're talking about, recognizing this is a fenced off area, only open, again, when it meets the protocol threshold of temperature. So we haven't fully investigated, but it did come up today as an option. I think in that case, we are leasing that property to the Edson and District Recycling Board, I believe, or Society. So obviously, as the leaseholder, they have rights to that land, so we'd have to have some discussions with them to see if they're willing to allow that to happen. So it is on one of the locations that we talked about this morning. I guess the point I'm trying to make this is ever adapting, and we're learning, and there's a lot of inputs that are coming in as we try to fill this void. And I think, given what I'm hearing from council tonight is we missed the mark, and we need to continue to work on this. We have explored other locations as well. I think, one of the councillors mentioned maybe recessing this and coming back. I think that would afford us the ability to do that. I think trying to make a bunch of amendments and selecting a location tonight could be quite cumbersome for us, just to do that, and we might make another decision that maybe is not as well thought out. So a little extra time. We are working on it daily, and that might be an advisable solution.
Councillor Persichny.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through to administration. Couple of orders of process. If the motion is defeated, can it come back? Because there's generally a timeline.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I think what we would recommend is that if a member of council is willing to put an amending motion on the floor to that motion, And if it was accepted by council, then we wouldn't defeat that motion. It would just be an amended one that we could deal with, or council could deal with, and then it could come back. It's either an amendment to that motion or, that's, we have some options if.
Furthermore, furthermore to that, I'll be honest, I can't support the motion as it's written. I would like it to come back, and if it's coming, if somebody's willing to move, that it's moved to come back, because if I remember correctly, if it's defeated, there's a time frame. It's like 6 months or something, which would put us into summer. So if we defeat this, or if we bring it back, and I would like to see it come back to council with true costs, liability, insurance, all that kind of stuff, because right now, that's a lot of money right now, and I don't think that's a true cost. And this is a provincial problem that the municipalities are trying to deal with because it's our residents. But at the end of the day, we don't have the social services for it. We don't have the stuff in place. And we've been trying to support groups to do it, and we've had some limited success with it. So I just want to see some more information on this than what we have right now.
Okay, I'm going to speak now. I know we have lots of people like that, but what I'm hearing in the room, if we can get a council, I believe Councillor Byer made the original motion. If we can get an amendment to move it forward, and I believe we can get amended to words, or do you have it? Okay, so that's...
We can get it up on the screen and wordsmith it if council wishes to.
Okay, because that's what I'm looking at, because I can see everyone in this room feels the same way. I'm the same way. As the motion stands, I am strictly against location. So if we can get the wordsmithing, and I believe in fairness to administration, we need to review it and give us some more time. So I guess I will let you two speak, but I just thought I would mention that in there. So, go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Pasishny, looking at the existing shelter pods, the challenge is there was an agreement between whatever the shelter pod committee or whoever's operating, I think it was Reflections at the end, and the Recycling Society. The reason why the shelter pods closed is because the Recycling Society did not renew that agreement. So for us to probably open in that location, we would need an agreement with them. But the reason why they're closed, it wasn't the town that closed them, it was the Recycle Society's agreement that ended that. From what I'm hearing from council is to wait a week, and looking at the forecast, and we are still in the unusually warm December time, so we perhaps have that time. But when we come back next week, the protocol needs to list a location. It needs to address the time, and it needs to address the staffing issue. And those are the three things that it, for me, needs to address. To hear Councillor Pasishny's point of cost, and if we have to go to a third party staffing, then so be it as well. So I won't make that motion. Maybe I'll let someone else go ahead and do that. I would also recommend that council also discuss with Martin Long in terms of we are taking on this responsibility, and I think Councillor Byer brought this up to discuss. If we're going to take this on, they've said that we're not going to help, but we need to still have that discussion. I know there's another organization that's working towards something. I don't know how far out they are. I think there's lots of moving pieces to that, from what I understand. I don't know whether it'll be set up in place before the holidays. And that's the challenge. Like, again, we could call a special meeting, but we should try to avoid that. Even if it's just temporary, that we have it through the holidays, and this other organization can step forward and do it. And there's lots of challenges. They have funding challenges and volunteer challenges in terms of what they're trying to do. Then maybe they take it over, and then we could cease the protocol because we have another organization in place. But anyways, I'll let someone else make the amending motion, and I'll support that.
If I could, Amanda has her hand up. Sorry, I missed your hand. Go ahead, Amanda. I can't hear you. I don't know how to. Steve, you know how to turn her volume?
Is that better?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry about that. If I may just ask for a few minutes for a recess, I just would like to review one section of our bylaw, and we could come back to this.
I guess that's called for. We can do a recess of how much time would you require?
5 minutes, please.
Okay, so we can call a recess, and yes, this is an important issue, and we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Ready?
I am ready. I
Oh,
apologize
sorry,
for that.
Amanda.
That's okay. So we do have a option within our procedural bylaw to actually postpone the main motion to come back at another time. So essentially, we're not closing the motion, we're just postponing it to another date. My recommendation would be that we go ahead with scheduling the special council meeting for December 12th. We would just need to decide on a time and then do another motion to postpone the main motion to that special council meeting date.
Okay, Amanda, if I'm understanding you right, we're going to make the first motion for the special meeting and then postpone
Correct.
this one. Okay, so if I could get you to wordsmith it, and we'll get someone to make that motion.
But point of order, we already have a motion on the floor, do we not? The motion on the floor has to be dealt with.
Okay, Amanda, I need you back because we do have a point of order. We do have a motion on the floor. How do we deal with that one first?
Okay, so we're going to make a motion to amend the motion that council call a special meeting of council on Tuesday, December the 12th. We just would need whoever's making the motion to decide on a time to have that special council meeting. And they would make that motion, council would vote on it. Then we would need someone to put forward the second motion of postponing the main motion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm looking for someone to make the motion. Councillor Byer.
Okay, through the chair to Amanda. So I was the one who made the initial motion. So if I'm the one to make this amendment, then I would be certainly willing to do that. The time that we could do, I know our committee, the whole meeting is scheduled at 7 p.m. I don't know if we can do it at that time or if we should do it prior. Perhaps administration or Clayton.
Through your deputy mayor, I'd suggest we do it beforehand, and I think there's a function with youth council going on before the.
That's right.
Picture.
We can perhaps ask these council to come.
Sorry to interrupt, but Amanda, I'm just questioning though, the person making the motion, can they make the second to amendment? That's what I'm just questioning because Councillor Byer did make it, but if she's fine to do it, I have no problem with that.
Sorry, I am going to flip this a little bit. I'm sorry. I would actually recommend that we make this the amendment motion, that council postpone the main motion to Tuesday, December the 12th. And then we would do a secondary motion of council call a special meeting.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
If that makes sense.
Yes, Amanda, that makes sense. So I'm looking for a motion for the council to postpone the motion of Tuesday, so September 12th.
Correct.
Okay, so since I'm the one who made the motion,
Nope, this is a new one, Councillor Precision.
No, Councillor Byer's on. She's making the motion to amend, right?
yes.
Okay, I'll make the next motion.
Okay, Councillor Byer.
So I would be welcome to a friendly amendment on the motion that is listed on the second line there, that council postpone the motion that is already presented to Tuesday, December 12th, which was adopting the extreme cold weather emergency cover protocol.
Okay, so does everyone understand the question? And if so, I will call the question. All those in favor? Of the amendment. Okay, carried. Now I'm looking for the second one, the council call us, nope.
So we just need to clarify, whoever's going to make that motion would need to specify a time, please.
Oh, sorry about that. We're getting all confused here. So now we voted on that one, so now we're doing the second one.
Still have a motion on the table that's been amended. We have to
Yes.
vote on that motion before you can make a new motion.
Good thing he's an experienced mayor. Okay, so now we're gonna call the second one. So all those in favor of the amended motion. Okay, we're all clear? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, carried. So now, for on there, so now we're looking for council to call a special meeting and specify the time. And I think administration recommending about 5:30, so even 5 o'clock-ish.
Right.
Yep.
Through the dep-
Councillor Pichichny.
before I move a special meeting through the deputy mayor to Amanda or Clayton, on a special meeting, remember, do we have to set the time, or can we set it to take place immediately after our committee of the whole?
According to the MGA, we need to specify a time.
And how much do we have on our agenda for the committee of the whole?
We do not have a set agenda at this time.
Okay, all right, I'm ready to make a motion then.
Okay, Councillor Pichichny, go ahead and make the motion.
They may not like me for it. I would move that we cancel the committee of the whole meeting. Do we need the committee of the whole meeting?
I don't think we do that. We need to, there's a time frame.
There are items, okay. Okay, so I'll rescind that, but what I'm getting at, I haven't finished my motion, so it wasn't on the table yet. And he never accepted it. What I would like to do is, I don't want to have it too early in the afternoon. We do have our youth council and their youth, so they have time parameters, and we have a committee of the whole meeting. But I would rather have it after the committee of the whole. And then maybe we could have stuff presented in the committee of the whole meeting and have more talk on it before it goes to the council special meeting. I don't know if that's allowed or not. I know special meetings have a lot of rules, and all you can deal with is the motion that's on the item that's on the table. So I'm trying to feel out council if.
I'll just interrupt you, Amanda. If you're hearing it, I will look for your input because what Councillor Pichichny is saying is making sense, but let's see if you can wordsmith it for us.
Yes, I'm just pulling up the MGA right now. So it says a special council meeting called must be held within 14 days, which we would be doing. So a special council meeting by giving at least 24 hours notice in writing, stating the purpose of the meeting, the date, time, and location which it is to be held. So we do need to specify a time.
Deputy Mayor, if I could, so there is some proposed items for the committee of the whole agenda, but it doesn't look like it's a super long one. Like, I don't think we're gonna be here for 2 hours with committee of the whole items, so there is opportunity before or after, I think.
Okay, I like what I'm hearing over here. So, Amanda, if we set it for 8 p.m., that should be more than adequate time because we do have a function, or?
I would agree. I feel that 8 would be a doable time.
Okay, I'll let Councillor Pichichny or finish.
You have people in your queue ahead of
Yeah, just.
Yeah, through the chair.
Councillor
Council,
Taylor.
I know, as I said, or as we notified, the youth council is attending. I think our better option is probably do our special meeting before, because without we have one item to discuss, we would have, if we said 5:30, that would give us an hour and a half tops, right, to 7 o'clock. And if we need to meet with youth council after committee of the whole, because they'll be there throughout the committee of the whole meeting, perhaps we could do that photo at that time. So we have that flexibility. But if we want to pencil ourselves into an 8 o'clock start and committee of the whole has some discussion items that take longer, anyways, that just my 2 cents on that.
Thanks, you, Councillor Byer. Councillor Byer. Sorry, Taylor, no Byer.
Thanks. Through the deputy mayor to administration and council, I think that maybe 5:30 would be a better option. I think an hour and a half is plenty of time to work through this item, and it would still give us time to do the pictures with the youth council. I would be very nervous about putting it right in the middle of our generally scheduled committee of the whole time, because we sometimes say it's going to be a quick meeting and then we have to extend it. So I don't want to jinx us there.
Okay, so hearing, I think the consensus in the room, we're trying to figure it out earlier. If everyone paying attention, earlier is better or later? Councillor,
Go ahead. I'm okay with the time, but remember you have a scheduled meeting for 7, so whether you get it done or like we run into conflicts because we're trying to put 2 meetings in one day. And the special meeting has a lot more rules than the committee of the whole. Committee of the whole is quite flexible. We could literally pause the committee of the whole to start the special meeting, right? So the committee of the whole is a committee meeting. A special meeting is lock solid in stone and means that we're having it at that time whether we like it or not. And we can't close the meeting until the business is done. And so therefore it's a committee of the whole. The beauty of a committee of the wholes is they're very informal. And if you set it for 8 o'clock and we're not done our committee of the whole, we could recess that meeting, start our special meeting, finish our special meeting, and reconvene with our committee meeting because it's not the same as and hard fast as a thing. Also, a lot of people work during the day, so it gives people, when they come to our meeting, they can actually attend in their gallery and be present for it as well. And then we'll have good attendance for our committee of the whole meeting too then. So that was my thought behind it. So that's why the committees are way more flexible than our actual special meeting. There's nothing else can be added to the special meeting. Once we set the meeting, that is it. So there's nothing to be added, no additions, deletions, it's one item only. So.
okay, I'm just gonna chime in because I'm hearing what you're saying. So if we set it for 5:30 and it goes longer, what I'm hearing, the committee of the whole time can be changed. So I think 5:30 in case it goes longer, because if we do it at 8, and I appreciate the public is here, what if it goes to 10:30 at night? I'm thinking 5:30 and we can move the committee of the whole.
Through
Go
the
ahead,
chair,
Councillor.
I think what Councillor Position said, we'll start our committee of the whole meeting at 7, and at 8 o'clock, our special meeting starts. We'll pause our committee of the whole meeting. I didn't realize we could do such a thing. Is that what you're indicating there? Yeah, but that's what you're starting at 8 is what you had said, right? Like for our special meeting, correct? Yeah, that's what you said. Okay, I was making to make sure. Okay, so that's what who wants to make that motion? Yeah, I'm in favor of that. That's
Okay, I believe Councillor Persichny was working on it to make the motion.
Yeah, I'll move so we can move this council meeting along. I'll move that we call a special meeting of council on Tuesday, December the 12th, 2023 at 8 p.m. As per the terms defined from the motion we just passed. Is that right? Am I missing anything on that, Amanda?
No, that is correct.
Okay.
Okay, so everyone understands the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. We're moving on to item 7, appointing auditors. The motion is that council appoints JDP Washman LLP as town external auditor for the years 2023, 24, and 25, and is presented by Paul Hanlon.
Thank you, sir. Deputy Mayor, through you to all of council. In September of this year, we, I suppose somewhat by surprise, were notified by...
Sorry, we're all this other stuff. I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make the
Thanks,
motion.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Bevan.
Thank you, Councillor Bevan. Deputy Mayor, through you to all of council. Somewhat by surprise, in September of this year, the town's long-serving auditors communicated that they would not be continuing as our auditors. It was a bit of an unusual timing and a little unexpected, so administration moved quite quickly to, as we are required to issue a request for proposal. We were successful in receiving, quite frankly, 5 very strong proposals. The 5 were considered by administration, and the one that was the preference of that administrative committee is brought forward for consideration as per the motion here this evening. The background to the recommendation is here, and administration is available to answer any questions. Thank you, sir.
Okay, with that said, council, do you have any questions? Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the deputy mayor to Mr. Hanlon. Did they indicate why they didn't want to be our auditor anymore?
They did not. It came in through CAO Beverage, and the letter came to me a little later. I believe, I don't want to put words in their mouth. I understood that there was some staffing changes, and so that was the reason they felt they could not continue on as auditors. We were the only municipality that they provided municipal auditing services for, so it was not certainly their main business model.
Councillor Beyer.
Thanks. Through the deputy mayor to council and administration. I did receive a concern from a resident regarding this auditor, and when I just did some, looking into that concern, I did find I didn't find anything super substantial that I was overly concerned, and I know administration had a chance to look at that as well. I did find that this firm has done the audit for many communities in our area, including the town of Hinton, Whitecourt, Drayton Valley, and actually an entire page of communities in Alberta. So their experience with auditing is quite sufficient, I would say. And that certainly gives me confidence using a firm that we haven't used before, as well as this year we've had challenges with the fires and everything else, and it's nice to know that they seem to have a lot of experience in this role. So,
Thank you, Councillor Beyer. Does any other council members have a question? If not, Councillor Beyer, or sorry, Bevan.
Oh, insulted again. Through the chair, looking at the charges here, when the recent auditor was doing it at $50,000 to $60,000, and they're doing this for 26, why such a change from year to year?
Councillor Bevan, through you to all of council. Certainly a question that our administrative committee wondered. As I'd mentioned, we had 5, in our opinion, any of the 5 firms could have done it. We had proposals ranging from slightly less than the amount that this auditor is doing it for, up to $60,000 a year. So I relied on a bit of my network of individuals that have worked with these firms, checked with them, checked their satisfaction with all of these firms, asked some of those same individuals their thoughts on why such a wide range. I can share that this particular firm has indicated, and as we have heard, they are working in the area. They do work for the school district. They do work for the town of Hinton, and so they are looking to establish themselves in the community. So they are coming in, and they know certainly the proposal indicated that they understood they were providing a fairly low proposal, and that's consistent through the 3 years in their proposal. In fairness to our current auditors, because I did ask this of my staff as I was not here for the last audit, and in the last 2 years, we have asked for considerable additional information of our current auditors. And of course, when we ask for additional information and when we expand upon the scope of requested audits, we do have to pay for those additional asks. And so that's my understanding to a certain extent. But we're very pleased with the proposed cost of service here, although that was not the principal reason why we selected or why we recommended this firm.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the deputy mayor, maybe to answer Councillor Bevan's question. I know from past experience, the town's auditor, with the Evergreens Foundation years ago, we went to a tender and we hired a outside firm because they were considerably less than our previous one, only to find out afterwards when they bid it, they didn't bid all the things that our local one did. So there was a whole pile of extra costs, and ended up costing the foundation more at that time. And so quite often their price includes all the services, where a lot of firms come in expecting your staff to do a bunch of stuff, where our previous auditors used to do that. So that's part of the stuff that we've seen in the past. So I'm not shocked by the differences, just because I know generally they provide everything in compared to a bid price for your basic service.
Okay, I believe all the questions are asked, so I am going to call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. We're moving on to H. Council accept December 5th, 2023's information item as set out in attachment, so I believe there's no report. We're just accepting it for information. Does anyone here have a comment on it? No. I will, Councillor Taylor, make the
I move
motion.
that council set the December 5th, 2023 information items as set out in attachments 1 to 3 as information.
Okay, if there's any questions or concerns? If not, I will call the,
Yeah, through the chair to council, administration, the gallery. Just a comment in terms of some of the things in the report. It was good to see that the body cams are being used in some communities in Alberta, and they're seeing some quicker resolution happening when there's conflicts between officers and the public. And also, just looking at the stats itself, like an overall decrease in the amount of crime in the community. Like at times it's quite substantial, and really impressive. And the continual community engagement from our local RCMP is phenomenal, as you see in the document here. I know I had Staff Sergeant Delisle in my classroom last week, speaking to our grade 9 students about justice and about policing and things like that. And he always does. He always communicates very well, connects very well with the community, wants to get out there, and I think it goes to great lengths to be seen, that our police are seen and heard, and that goes to great lengths to reducing crime in our communities. So hats off to them and the work that they're doing. So thank you.
okay, thank you, Councillor Taylor. Does anyone else have any questions? If not, then I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, we have no sundry. I believe we're going right here. No sundry, so we're going to move on to council committee reports, and I'll start with Councillor Moore. I was going to say, I'm looking and go, wait, he's not Sahara. Moore.
Thank you. There we are. Okay, November 21st, I attended the council meeting here. On the 28th, the RC strategy planning session, and I was at the Santa Claus parade, walked the route, and gave out lots of candy canes, and wore out my shoes, but that's okay. It was a great 27 entries, I believe, and I think we beat Hinton. They only had 26. So, hey, yay us.
Okay, you're stealing the thunder from Councillor Brzezinski, but
That's
you were
all I
up. Okay, thank you. Councillor Brzezinski up next.
Going back to the 21st, RC strategies on the 28th. I did attend the parade in my capacity as the town rep on the chamber. I got to do my first judging of the parade floats. And then you kind of end up becoming a bit of a parade marshal and telling people when to go in the parade. So it was actually, it was interesting and a great turnout as usual. And yesterday we had our youth council meeting, and that is my report.
Thank you, Councillor Brzezinski. I will go to Councillor Byer.
Okay, thank you. On November 22nd, I attended a meeting here with members from the medical center. We discussed many things, including just some challenges in recruiting doctors and healthcare professionals into our community, but overall a really healthy discussion. And then on November 24th, I attended 3 different meetings with Community Future. The first one was the IRC meeting. Following that, the Community Futures West Yellowhead board meeting, a regular one. And so it's interesting. The Community Futures Board, we were kind of struggling with some loans, like just like getting loans. Like it was really quiet, right? And we're like, kind of wondering, is this the economy or what's going on? And for those that aren't aware of what Community Futures, West Yellowhead Community Futures does, is they are an organization that has seed funding to support the startup of small businesses in our communities in our region, which includes Yellowhead County, Town of Edson, Hinton, the Grand Cache portion of the MD, and Jasper. And kind of business was slow, and we were getting a little bit concerned about that. And we'd already planned on a marketing campaign, and just the timing of that was amazing. And worked with a marketing strategist, I guess, I'm not sure exactly what she was called, targeting a specific target market, okay? So a lot of our members didn't actually see these ads because we weren't their target market. And like within a few weeks, we had 7 loans in the queue. And now we're just like, whoa, hold off. Like, it's too much, hold back. So it was just really amazing to see how a professional marketing strategy was able to like just boost things right up. So yeah, that was really, really cool to hear about that. And then following that board meeting, we also had the Community Futures West Yellowhead strategic planning session, which went really well. And then on November 28th, I also attended the RC Strategies Workshop of Council, which I kind of alluded to earlier. And that was a strategy working on the town-owned facilities and how we interact with our user groups and kind of like what is fair and having a better policies and procedures set in place going forward. And that's my report.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Byer. Move on to Councillor Taylor.
On November 28th, I attended the RC Strategies Workshop. Yesterday, December 4th, I attended the Yellowhead Regional Library Board meeting where we approved the budget for YRL, and the annual cost, I think, for 2024 for Edson will be about $36,700 and change. And then yesterday, along with Councillor Position, I attended our youth council meeting. And they always look at doing a project each year. And this project is an initiative to sort of help the homeless with an accent on youth, which I think is unique. And of course, then we also had a discussion regarding the issue that we spoke about a lot tonight about the emergency shelter, and hearing the youth perspective on that was really interesting. So it was a good discussion and a good meeting. That's my report.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Bevins. We're gonna have to change that, put a V in there. That's
put a
twice
wig on
now.
next time.
That's twice.
21st was a regular council meeting. Also had a meeting with the doctors and their administration on the 22nd, which went very, very well, and we're looking forward to having a follow-up with them in the near future here. Also attended the RIC strategy workshop on the 28th, and that is my reports.
Okay, thank you. I'll do my report on October 22nd. Also, the doctors meeting, November 24th. We our Trans-Canada Yellowhead Highway. We're discussing membership, but we're also doing tourism, and we opened a discussion to help them along with the economics of the 4 provinces, so we can get the Highway 16 highway moving. So those 24th, 28th, also the RC strategy, I was attended that as well. We have no financials. Questions from public or media. Steve, do we have any questions online? We don't, so at this time I will open the floor to the public to questions pertaining to this council meeting, if anyone has any. Okay, if I could get you to come up, state your name, and you can go ahead and ask the question.
I'm Katie Holden. My question is...
Oh, can I get you to go to the mic?
It doesn't record
All right.
Don't bring your butt. My name is Katie Holden. My question is regarding the emergency protocol. And Crystal had spoken of an organization that was hoping to get a grant for emergency shelters. Now, do we know if these emergency shelters would be temporary in cold, like the proposed emergency shelter we have now, or if they would be permanent. And if it is, that grant is received, would town council have any say in the locations of where this proposed emergency shelters would be placed?
Okay, I did hear your question, so in a lot of times we can't answer all that information, but if you, what? Oh, sorry, Councillor Byer sits on the task force, so I guess you can answer it.
Okay, through the chair to Ms. Holden. Thanks for your question, and good question. So it's, they're applying for a grant through the province, is my understanding. I know there are some parameters around that grant. I don't know all the details. It was more complex than what I think anyone would have preferred it to be. It's my understanding that it would have to be something that would be more of a regular use. And I don't think daytime. I'm not certain. Like, and this is where I'm not certain about those details. But more than what our proposal is here. And if there is something permanent, I believe they would have to have a development permit. Is that right? Yes. So it would have to go through the town administration in order to process that. In order to kind of have approval of that grant. So that's just very kind of some process information, but having that organization come present to us would kind of help answer some of those questions, because I agree. I would like to know more about that, and if that's something that they can provide for our community, maybe we have to do something for just, as Councillor Taylor mentioned, for the short term, but if they're able to do something that is a better service and not coming out of our municipal budget, that's my preference. So that's kind of a part of the reason why we want them at the table, so we can talk to them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more questions up pertaining? Please come up to the mic, state your name.
Good evening, it's Christy Williamson, through the Deputy Mayor to administration or to the councillors. My question is, well, first of all, I appreciate the robust discussion tonight and the input from the residents. Would the group that could assist with the emergency shelter be a group that is affiliated with a proposed safe injection site?
At that time, I hear your question. I would have to move you to administration, get their information, and they'd probably be more than happy to answer the question, because I cannot give you an answer, but I like what you're saying. So leave your information with them and we'd be happy to get back to you.
Okay, I think Mr. Wagstaff already has it.
If you have an answer, go.
No, not with reference to your question, no.
But you have my information.
Oh, I have your contact.
Yeah.
I have your contact information, and so does Amanda from the last meeting.
Perfect, thanks so much.
Councillor Byer, you have, oh, hang on. You have,
Yeah, thanks. Through the chair to our speaker. So through the committee that I'm on, I do not believe, I cannot put words in their mouth, but that has not come up for discussion at all. So it has not been on the table as far as I'm aware.
Perfect, thanks so much.
okay, do we have any more questions? Please come up, state your name, and ask your question.
Hi, Nikki Limas with the Weekly Anchor. I was just wondering, would you guys be able to provide an explanation for why the shelter pods are no longer in operation?
At that time, I would have to pass that to administration, because they would be able to. So I don't know which way of the table do we go. That may be able to answer the shelter pod question. Okay, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the chair. The shelter pods are no longer in operation because to be in operation, the operator of the shelter pods, which I believe was Reflections, had an agreement with the Edson and District Recycling Society. And the Edson District Recycling Society, that agreement lapsed and they just chose not to renew it. And that's the reason why they're no longer in use.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more questions from the gallery? Come on up. State your name and ask your question, please.
Brandon Cunningham. It's kind of a question / statement through the chair to any of the council members. I'd like to know how number 6, the emergencies cold weather, was able to make it here without a proper discussion. How it got here, originally being placed next to a school.
Okay, at that time, I'm not going to give you an exact answer because that's something that we debated. But I once again would say if you'd like that information, we would, because then a lot of times they're going to say how it ended up on the agenda. So I would pass that to either administration. We'd have to get back to you. So at that time, good question, but I don't have a proper answer for you.
I'll be back on Tuesday.
Oh,
Thank you.
hang on. Councillor Byer.
Thanks, through the chair to our speaker. Good question, and I can certainly see why you're concerned about that. So this was on the agenda last week, and we did postpone it because there were a lot of moving parts. And I'll speak of for myself. I'm speaking only of myself, not a council here. Administration has to look through things from their lens, which is a different lens than a political lens, and that's why we come to this table here. That's why we have elected officials. So this is the first time we've had this discussion, and administration will look at something, like I said, from their perspective, and this is not in our wheelhouse, right? This isn't, the way that, this isn't in our mandate to kind of provide this service. To kind of back up for them, they weren't here when we dealt with this a few years ago, right? At least the ones at the table here tonight. And when something comes to council, it's council's prerogative to have that discussion with the community. That's why our agendas are posted a few days in advance. It gives the community to look at that, an opportunity to look at that information. We heard quite clearly from the public that it was undesirable. For the reasons that everybody emailed us, and thank you for emailing. I know that's my preferred method of hearing from people. And then council meets at this table, and then this is where the discussion happens. So this is the discussion. Like, no decision was made when it was put on the agenda on Friday. I know some people think that was the case. Unfortunately, that is not the case. So it was on the agenda, and it allowed council to now have the discussion that we had tonight. And for the community, and time for the community to give some input into that information as well. As you're aware, we didn't come to a conclusion because there is more information that we would like to have, and that's council's prerogative through our discussion to ask that of administration, and then that will now allow the residents more time to consider that as well. And whenever there's information posted about that special meeting, then you'll also have that opportunity to contact your councillors prior to that as well. So this is where the discussion happens, is here. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Byer. Councillor, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I'll have a quick follow-up. I understand there's proper procedure and policy on how things get done. That's not the question. The question is, how did that Emergencies Act make it to this table in the form that it was in? That's what I don't understand.
I could actually, if you looked at the original, the act was from years ago, so I'm listing what they're saying. It was brought through because, it is December, so the act was voted on and it was a renewed act. So I would have to agree, it was put on the agenda, and I get the public is curious, but like we hear in this room, the council members debated it, and we're agreeing with the public we need more time. That's why we moved it forward, because we're also saying, how it got there, it was from 2000. If you looked at it, the act was there. But how it ended up on the agenda, it was for council to debate, and that's why council members prolonged it to give us more time to address the issue. So I don't know if that answers your question, but Councillor Prasichny wants to speak.
Yeah, through the deputy mayor to our guest. Council, we don't manage the town. And I think there's a misconception there that the people at this table manage the town. We're the board. So we hire a manager to manage the community. And then they have to get our permission to spend money. They have to get our permission to do a lot of things. The only way we get to interact with administration is through committee work. So committee of the wholes that we have. Through various boards and committees, we represent the community. So we get to interact through committee of the whole and through council. So in this situation, it has to hit a committee of the whole meeting or a council meeting, which are alternating weeks. We only have one committee of the whole a month, and we have 2 council meetings a month. So what happens is it hits the table because they have to bring it to council because they can't spend the money without us. So what happens is they send us an agenda, we get it, it's public, knowledge. Everybody gets to look at it. We get to debate at the table, and we get to make the final decision on it. So it hits our table, and what happened tonight is we didn't like what we saw, very similar to what a lot of people did. So we've sent it back to them to come back to us, and we're going to call a special meeting so that we can re-debate it again and look at it with more information. So we don't have the ability to come in here and tell and micromanage our managers. We don't get that opportunity because it's not within the thickest piece of Alberta legislation you can get. Okay, so basically it has to hit our table in order for it to be public. So that's where we represent everybody in this community. We are elected to represent the people in the community to bring their concerns. And that's why when people get upset, they call us and they send us information. And we have to make judgments based on the entire community. And not one person or two people or three people. But we have to look at it from a thing. And that's why there's 7 of us, is so that you don't have the likes of Chestermere. So it hits our table because it has to. So I understand where you're coming from. You're like, well, how did it appear? Like, I have the same question. I would have liked to debated it at a committee of the whole, where you have way more flexibility and openness, not nearly as formal as this meeting. But it never hit the community. It wasn't brought to us at that way. So that's a process that our mayor has to look at, because he sets the agendas. And actually, and maybe to defend our deputy mayor, he kept saying we should have 2 committee of the wholes, we should have more committee of the wholes, and maybe in light of this, we should be looking at having 2 committee of the wholes again. But what happens is that when you have too many meetings, you have staff scrambling to create you an agenda for the sake of having a meeting to have a meeting. And that there's resources to that as well. So sometimes you get rid of a meeting to save the taxpayer money, because the staff who are in here right now, they're working. This is our job to sit at this table, but they're working their extra hours, which they'll have to, like any other employer, will have to take lieu time off in light of it. So we don't want to over meeting people, and we don't want to committee everything to death, but this is the right way. The wrong way would have been they went and did it, and then we're dealing with a $30,000 budget hit going, how'd that happen? That's when you get really mad. This is process, and you're a part of it tonight, and you get to ask the questions, and we get to debate it, and we get to throw it back at them. And then they get to rejig it and throw it back at us, and then we get to argue it and debate it again. So I don't know if that clarified it or not, but.
It does. And my small business mind grasped most of it. But what I don't understand is it's December, and this is just being put forward now. And when decisions are made under pressure, poor decisions are made.
And that's actually a fantastic statement, because as a counselor, and I've been talking to some other colleagues, and like, why are we getting this in December? Like, we would have had 25 below already, right? Like, this is already past, like, we're just a very fortunate fall. We should, again, and I know Councillor Chenard and I were talking about it earlier today. I'm like, we should have been talking about this in September, right? And then we could have debated it, and there could have been time, and things could have been, the community could have heard about it and stuff. So, yes, but our community, there's a lot going on in our community right now. There's been a lot of structure changes. Our town manager has been doing some restructuring and removing some middle management, for lack of better words, and so we're trying to get things. We're trying to right the ship in the right direction. So it came to us late, and that's why it was thrown at us. But as you can see, our council is not happy with what was thrown at us, and we actually, a great statement last night. We actually asked our youth council, what do you think about we call it the Boys and Girls Club, that's what he relates it to. What do you think about there? And then they're like, no. And then what if about in this neighborhood? They go, no, I live there. And then, NIMBYs, okay. And I literally, personally, have a person who's homeless living behind my house, but he doesn't affect us, and he's in the forest. But, there's nowhere good place in the community to put this, because every person doesn't want it in their backyard. The sandy dump was mentioned, but there's a house there. Do they want to look out their door and stare at that every day? Do the people dropping their kids out of gymnastics club want to look at it? No. Do the business people on First Avenue want to see them walking by? So it's a challenge. And this is not just our challenge. Every single community is unheard of. You rewind the clock 30 years, you didn't have these problems in small towns. So that was a city problem. Now you do. And the news tonight, Cold Lake, same problem. Wetaskiwin, they were going to build a shelter, and they're getting huge pushback from their community. So we're hearing people, and that's our job. So we're open for more ears, and we're basically, what council did tonight is we need more information, and we are going to get more feedback, and we know people will be letting us know about it. So I don't know if that answered it.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
It was a good rant, but thank you.
Sorry.
Do we have any more questions? Oh, I should have cut you off. I could have.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Joanne Sobon. Through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Pasichny, just further to your comment about well, I'm just...
Just tell him one of his rants.
What's that? No, your first rant. Your last rant. So you were saying that if this hadn't cost money, basically, that it wouldn't have come before council, and that trailer would be sitting at Griffiths Park right now, would it not? Or is that a wrong assumption? Like, why did it come before council? Because of money, or because of
Absolutely.
policy?
Yeah, if I threw to the Deputy Mayor, absolutely because of money. It hits council. But I don't think, I have faith in our administration. I don't think they would just plunk that up without going through council.
Even with this, saying it like this on here?
Yeah, well, it was put to us that this way. So that was a document. It's council's document to own. So if our administration doesn't have a clear protocol set, they can't go and do it, right? So in our council meeting tonight, we had the fee structure. So a fee structure changed, and all of a sudden we're like, well, we're changing things. And anytime you change, we get the community going, whoa, we weren't expecting that. You know, we last year it was free. This year there's a cost. Because we're doing a strategy right now to get proper stuff so that we don't have these. So if we create good policy for the administration, they follow that policy. So basically what they're bringing to us tonight was policy. Policy with a budget attached to it because there's a fee to it. And with the protocol, we own that. We own the protocols and the policies. So we create that policy, we give it to them. And if we create this policy tonight and said this is the policy and the protocol, moving forward, they would go ahead and do it based on that protocol. And the only way it would change is if we asked it to be changed. So, and that goes throughout the community. And to be honest, we are doing a complete bylaw review because our bylaws are antiquated and sloppy and they're cumbersome and they're red tape-ish and everything else like that. Our fee structures for arenas are inconsistent. We have all kinds of things in this community haven't really been ironed out to operate and run smoothly like a community. And our administration right now is working incredibly hard to get all these things in line so that we don't have the challenges we've been facing over the last numerous years where, this policy doesn't make any sense or, yeah, you're part of the hockey club, so we're going to give you guys a deal because we're buddies and you're not part of the group, so we're going to charge you more. And now there'll be a policy so you can hold the staff accountable to it. So this is basically policy. This, even without the dollar amount, this was coming to council without question. Because this is a protocol that they are going to follow, it has to come to council. They don't get to make policy. That's our job. This is a policy table and a budget table. What else do we do? That's really it. And we only have one employee, and as you know, these gentlemen technically aren't our employees. Well, right now he is, so we got to beat him up because he's acting right now. But our chief administrative officer is the only employee we have. So, and I don't know if I missed anything.
I'm sure you didn't.
I do have one more question.
One
I have two
more
questions, actually.
go ahead.
My
Oh,
question
hang
is-
on,
sorry.
one second. Do you want to answer with the original? Okay, go ahead, Joanne.
Okay, so my next question is through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Taylor. You said that the shelter pods are not in operation any longer because the agreement with the Recycling Society, and your understanding, and I just am asking for your understanding. I know this isn't the gospel or anything. Because the agreement with the Recycling Society had ended or had expired. Right in time when those two people died, or was it canceled? Any ideas, or how would I find that out?
You would have to look through the minutes of the Edson District Recycling Society through the chair. You have to look through the minutes of the Edson District Recycling Society. My understanding is that the agreement lapsed and they didn't renew it. That's my understanding.
Okay, it just seems kind of coincidental to me, that's all. So I will do that though, but.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. And then my final question is to do with the fee structure. I just got to look at my terminology here, sorry. I have too many questions. And I don't know who this is through Deputy Mayor to whoever would like to answer it, but up until now, how did it say here? So the Memorial Arena has been used at no cost to both the high schools till now. And that was waived, that had been waived outside of policy or however it was said. So how come now they want to rent the second thing and now suddenly it's in policy?
I can answer that one. What had happened is we're going to administration, let's do some cost recoveries. So somewhere it got slipped, and as we debated, in the future it will. So in fairness, to both schools, that's why we're waiving it. So somewhere it got missed.
Okay.
And so we're saying fairness to grad. That's why we waived it and give more time. Go ahead. Go ahead. We need another round.
I don't think, I don't, now I'm going off, maybe it's hearsay, but that the argument this year wasn't that they were being charged, it was that they were being charged multiple days. In the past, they were charged for the day of use, not for the days of setup. So, now that's the way it was informed to me, and that's from the public, because we got our ears full. Because they budgeted for what they had in the previous years, which was 1 day of use, and then we're charging them for 5 days of use. So it went from being X amount of hundreds of dollars to like over thousands. So that was, and again, Edson's a community. So for years, we've done a lot of things that didn't follow policy. So reason we're redoing our strategies is, if the facility is empty and there's nobody going to be using it, and you're going to be using it for one major day, like charging somebody 5 days just to go up and set up and forget. So sometimes we have to apply common sense, and sometimes you can't always apply common sense through policy. So that's where the public has the opportunity to come to council, and council has the opportunity to waive things. So, so we've also had some management structure changes. And so sometimes when you change management, some managers will follow what rules they're given, because that's how they do their job, and maybe previous ones may not have. So, so sometimes when you have staff changes, people start to follow rules, and then the people in the community are used to the people who didn't follow the rules, and so it just kind of it snowballs.
Okay, it doesn't help me. I was just trying to kind of understand, as you guys know, I'm trying to understand policies, and there's a whole thing to that. But anyway, that doesn't matter.
We're spending a lot of money on fixing that right now.
Yeah, okay.
Good. Councillor Taylor, maybe I'll help answer this question.
Yeah, through the chair. I can say that there's two sort of different events that happen with grad. There's the ceremony, which is organized by the school, and then the banquet or reception that's organized by the parents, right? Sort of my understanding is that the school can book the facility using the cost, the share use agreement that the schools have with the town. So then when we book this, when parents want to book the second one, that's where maybe a cost was sort of coming into play, right? So that's sort of my understanding of the issue, and but I try to sort of stay away from grad in terms of those. I'm not on that committee or anything, so that's sort of my understanding of how things run. And Parkland runs it slightly differently, because they're able to hold their ceremony inside their gym because it's big enough, and they only need one arena then for their grad for the reception.
But wouldn't their arena be for the reception as well? So that would be the parent end of it, right? Still?
I don't know how Parkland runs their grad. Whether that's a school or run or parent run, I don't know. So, yeah.
Okay, any questions, Joanne? Hopefully we answered them. Do I have any more? Thank you, Joanne. Do we have any more questions? No, thank you all for attending and putting up with me patience. Oh, wait a minute. Thanks, Joanne. Thanks, Joanne. Go ahead, Clayton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Chouinard. So I guess just in response, and I certainly can appreciate the frustration from the residents and the timing of this. It's fair. Certainly from administration perspective, we'd like to have this tackled long before we're this meeting. And there's a comment made that we make poor decisions, or our work isn't as good when we're under pressure and the timelines are thin, and that's true. I think what had happened is after the pods closed down, our staff were working with service providers to find that more permanent solution. And when it was time to pivot to, hey, guess what? This isn't coming to fruition as quickly as we'd hope. It's pivot into, now we got a gap. And so our ability to pivot, or how we pivoted, was not quick enough, obviously, because here we are today at the 11th hour, last council meeting of the year before the holidays, and we don't have all this figured out. And as of today, we're still getting information and learning what rules we have to apply by, and so it's not an area of expertise for us, and we're working hard to figure out bringing something to council that they can can support or not support, so, or give us feedback on. So apologies, that's on, you know, me as the employee of council. Not having this in a form that council could work with was our bad, and we'll continue to work harder to bring something that council can debate and consider for next week.
Okay, thank you. If that's all the question, I have an important one. Looking for a motion. Holy cow. Councillor Persicny.
I'll move adjournment.
Okay, all those in favor? Those opposed? Thank you. Thank you guys all.